Hey, what's going on?
Hi, friends.
Hey, y'all.
Hey there.
Hello from UNC Greensboro.
Well, we really wish we could personally welcome you to our beautiful campus today.
We're so glad you're here with us virtually.
During this year's open house, there are a ton of opportunities to connect with us.
We have more than 20 info sessions lined up across 3 weeks, all streamed live on our website.
You'll hear from admissions and financial aid staff,
Advisors, professors, and students.
Maybe you'll even see this familiar face.
You can also interact with the panelists in each session by texting us your questions, and we'll answer them in real time.
Take some time to explore our website for even more information, like a personalized view book, campus tour signups, and of course, a link to apply.
UNCG is a really special place, and we hope you get to see a glimpse of that during this year's open house.
We're crossing our fingers that you'll get to meet with us face to face sometime really soon. Until then,
mask up,
wash your hands,
and go Spartans!
And go Spartans.
Go Spartans.
Go Spartans.
And go Spartans.
Good evening, future Spartans, and welcome to our fall virtual open house, where this evening we'll be discussing financial aid and scholarships. My name is Caleb Cuthbertson, and I serve as the Assistant Director for College Completion Initiatives here in our Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and I'm also a proud first-year recruiter. Tonight, joining me, we have Miss Deborah Slade, who will be talking about all things financial aid, as she is the expert. So, Miss Deborah, can you talk a little bit about who you are and what you do here on the lovely campus of UNC Greensboro?
Yes, thank you, Caleb, and good evening, everyone. It's so good to be here with you. My name is Deborah Slade. I'm the Assistant Director for Outreach in the UNCG Financial Aid Office. And one of the things that I get the pleasure to do is to talk to potential students like yourselves, and to talk to our continuing students, and just have an opportunity to answer your questions about financial aid and help you get through that process as easily and smoothly as possible.
Awesome. So at this time, I do want to let you know Ms. Deborah's going to be giving us a quick presentation, and then we will be taking your questions and answers based off of the presentation, as well as any that you may have lingering as well. So there's a number at the bottom of the screen. I encourage you to text that number, as that will be how we receive your questions. And once Ms. Deborah is finished, we'll go through those. So text away.
All right. Well, thank you again, Caleb, for giving me an opportunity to be here. I know that we have a lot of people who have lots of questions about how to get ready to pay for college. And I just want to go through a few things, a few steps to help you get through that process and hopefully spur you to some questions that you can put in your arsenal for future use. So let's go ahead and get started. So typically the questions that people have most often center around what to pay. What is it that you have to pay to the university in order to make sure that you're going to be able to continue on? So we have a term that's used, most colleges have the same term, it's called cost of attendance. And that is just an estimate of all of the things that you would spend money on while you're in school. But the main things that you're going to spend money on, or the main things that you're going to pay directly to the university, would be tuition and fees, you see here. And if you're going to be living on campus, you'll also pay for your on-campus dorm and meal plan, which is board. The other costs that you see listed here, books and supplies, transportation, personal, miscellaneous expenses, are indirect costs. They're not costs that are charged directly to you. And also, if you live off campus, you won't get a bill from the university for your housing. But nevertheless, you want to make sure that you're budgeting for these things so that you don't run short, and so that you know exactly how to use your resources that you've amassed for college. So how do you pay? Well, there are a number of different sources of financial aid and financial assistance. The main two that people are most concerned with, and what we want you to have tons of, is grants and scholarships. There are also funds from loans and work study. Now, loans and work study are considered self-help aid, in that loans have to be repaid. Work study, you have to earn these funds before you actually have them available to use. And then, of course, if you've been saving, which I hope you have, there's family savings. And don't get upset if you haven't been able to save a lot. Even if you've only saved a few $100s, that can go a long way toward helping with your book costs. So don't get discouraged by that. Now, where does all this money come from? What are the sources? Well, the federal government is one of the largest sources of financial aid. Each year, billions of dollars are handed out to students in the form of federal Pell Grant, in the form of student loans. So there are a number of different programs within the federal system. There's also aid from the state. So if you are a North Carolina resident, there are programs that the state of North Carolina has available for residents. If you're a resident of another state, please check with your state higher education authority to see what programs and resources are available for you. Then there's also institutional funds. So those are funds that come directly from the college in the form of grants and scholarships. And then next on the list, we have organizations. And these can be private scholarship foundations. They can be civic organizations within your community, or maybe even organizations that you belong to, like, or that your parents may belong to, fraternities or sororities or professional organizations. And then again, we mentioned savings, but this is different. This is college savings plans, like 529 plans or tuition savings plans. So again, these are all different sources of funding for financial aid and for making sure that you get through college. So I mentioned the federal aid programs and the massive amounts of aid that's available through them, but I'm just going to talk about these three that we have on the screen. The federal Pell Grant is a need-based program. These are funds that do not have to be repaid, and you would receive an amount based on your level of enrollment. The federal work study program is just like the name implies. You're working and you're studying. So you're in a part-time job that you would work hours per week and get a paycheck at the end of the month with the number of hours that you worked. When you receive the allocation of funds, it's not paid to you directly at the outset like other aid. You do have to work. So you'll get an allocation of money that you can earn during the academic year, and then you'll find a job. And that can be an on-campus job within your department. You could work with us in the financial aid office, or you may be able to find a position off campus in a community-based program. So again, there are a number of different opportunities. And then the last tile is for the loans program, the federal loan programs. Now there are two. One is the subsidized and unsubsidized loan for the student, and then you have the plus loan for the parent. And you pull back a little bit so you can see all of that. You have the plus loan is a credit-based loan that parents can apply for to benefit their students to help them pay for college. Now again, these are loans and they do have to be repaid. So we want you to focus in on the free money first and then decide if you need to take out loans. Well, what is the method of getting these funds? Well, the very first step for the federal aid programs is the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. And it opened just this month, October 1st, for the next academic year. So one of the things that you want to make sure that you do is to find out the deadlines or the priority filing periods or the early filing periods for the schools that you're considering. UNCG has an early filing period of October 1st through January 15th. And what this means is that students who file within that time frame are first in line to receive the funds that they're eligible for before the funds run out. In many cases, we have limited funding and we award it on a first come, first serve based on the eligibility level. And then once those funds are awarded, we may not have any more left. So if you're a late filer and you're eligible, we may not have the funds ready to give you. So please file early. Make sure you get that done quickly. The FAFSA is also one of the applications that's required for state aid programs. You want to check to make sure there may be other applications, so be sure to check to see what other things are required. In addition to the FAFSA, it's definitely required for the North Carolina state aid programs, so be sure to get that done. And then let's talk about a few of the state aid programs and how you can get more information. So cfnc.org is the premier place to go for information on the state aid programs. And this week, starting today, is college application week, or I can't remember the exact wording now because it eludes me. But this is the week that I want you to navigate over to cfnc.org, where you can get assistance on filing the FAFSA. You can also get assistance with college applications and with completing the residency determination. Now that's important because if you are not considered a North Carolina resident, you would not be considered eligible for any of the state aid programs, and you would not be considered for in-state tuition rates. So it's really important to make sure you get that residency determination application completed and get it done accurately. So navigate over to cfnc.org and make sure you follow through on that. Private scholarships are another source. They are available online through your through private scholarship databases that you can search. Your high school counselor or your college advisor would have information about these programs, especially the local applications that may be available for you. So make sure you visit the website, or they may have a newsletter out for you. So make sure you visit that to so you're not missing out on any opportunity to apply for scholarships. Your school has aid, again, for financial aid at UNCG. You would need to make sure you complete the FAFSA. That's going to cover the majority of the aid programs. And then the other aid program or the other application is actually through your admissions application. That is your application for the merit scholarships. And we may talk a little bit about that later on as questions arise, but for it's real simple. You do the admissions application and the essay. Make sure you get it done by December 1st. And that's going to be your application and your entry into the pool to be considered for the merit scholarships. There's one other program that I wanted to talk about for our high achieving students, and that is the UNCG Guarantee Program. And this is a program that offers not only financial assistance, but also some very good academic support, mentoring, internship opportunities for our high achieving students who may come from income levels that are lower income levels. So this is an opportunity to help mitigate and to minimize the amount of loans that you may need to borrow during your academic career. So I encourage you to navigate over to the UNCG Guarantee site. Their application is not yet open, but you can still get some good information about the requirements and what is available through that program. So you might need more information. So where would you look? Well, we definitely want you to come to our website, come to the Financial Aid Office website to get information about the different programs, application procedures. We have a glossary of information so that if some of these financial aid terms are confusing and we're not there, you can really get a good explanation and a good understanding of what some of those terms mean. Again, the UNCG Guarantee Program website is there. And I can't say enough about cfnc.org. That is one of my go-to sources for information. They also have a scholarship search listed there, as well as all of the programs that are listed for the North Carolina State financial aid programs. So I definitely encourage you to utilize that site to its fullest. Studentaid.gov is where you would file your FAFSA and get more information about the federal aid programs. And the 1-800-4FED-AID is a number you would call if you run into difficulties or have questions while you are completing your FAFSA. So they're there on the phone to help you out if you run into any kinds of difficulties or have questions. Here are a number of private scholarship searches, and these links are on our website. If you go to fia.uncg.edu, fia.unc.edu, I just gave you our email address. If you go to these, go to our website, these links are there under outside scholarships, and you can search for free these databases to find additional sources of aid for you. Now, they do not guarantee that you will get a scholarship by searching their database. However, it is one of the places where we recommend students look because we've had a history with these sites. We know that they do not sell your personal information. Now, your email address might be a different story. So I always encourage students to set up a separate email address for any types of scholarship searches that you may be doing so that you don't get all that mixed in with your regular mail. And also you have a place to sort and you know that you have a designated place for financial resources. And that way you can keep up with what's going on. But these are free searches. Again, please don't pay anyone to do these searches for you, just as I encourage you not to pay anyone to do the FAFSA, because the first word in that acronym is free. It is a free application. And if you have questions or you need help, you can always call our office. There are a number of different resources out to help you get that done. We definitely want you to connect with us. If you have questions about any of the information that we're going to be covering tonight, we definitely, if we don't get your question answered or if something comes up after the session is over and we didn't get it answered for you, please give us a call. Our phone hours are 9 to 4, Monday through Friday. And you can also send us an email, which the email address I gave you before, finaid@uncg.edu. And we'll be more than happy to answer your question, because we want to make sure that you know what you need to do, that you have a good understanding of how to get through the process. We don't want you bogged down and confused. The FAFSA and this whole financial aid process is not difficult. It's just different. And sometimes different can seem a little scary, but trust me, we're here to help you. And if you have questions at night after we're done and the phones are off and nobody's answering the email inbox, you can always go to our chat bot. Minnie is on both the financial aid office homepage. She's also on the admissions page. Any question that you have, you can post to Minnie. Now, this is an artificial intelligence, so it's a bot. It's not a real person answering the chat. So you won't be able to have a conversation. You can ask questions and they'll be answered through a knowledge base. And if there is a question that Minnie can't answer, there's an opportunity for you to be forwarded to an email address. And again, you can choose, if you have a question about the admissions process, you can choose to have someone from the admissions office reach out to you. Or if you have a financial aid question, you can have someone from financial aid reach out to you. So Minnie is on board all the time. She is ready and waiting for you. Now, I also want to make you aware that I mentioned that the FAFSA Help is free. Each Thursday night, my office, the financial aid office, has a team that will do a Facebook Live event at 6 p.m. on our Facebook page, and we talk about a different topic each week. So we've been covering topics. We did an overview the first week. The second week, we talked about a checklist of things that you need to get done. Then we talked about if you're independent or dependent, which parent would you put on the FAFSA? And then last week we talked about the IRS data retrieval tool, using that to get your information into the FAFSA. We talked about the verification process, and then special circumstances if something happens after you filed your FAFSA that impacts your ability to pay. So I invite you to go to our webpage and look at those, to our Facebook page rather, and check out those videos. And they may, again, help answer some of the questions. Join us this Thursday. We're going to talk about the top FAFSA errors that people typically have on the FAFSA. So you want to make sure you tune in for that so you don't make any of those. And then you can also, again, ask questions of us. So Caleb, that is all that I have. I'm sure you have some questions that may have come in the chat, or we can see what's on people's minds. I'm glad to answer some of those for you as we go forward.
Absolutely. We had several questions come in. Some really good information you've provided, and now there's several of them are clarifying questions. But again, I do want to just give the opportunity to make this announcement again for those that may have joined us later. We are taking live question and answers. If you do have any questions, you can text it to the number posted on the lower portion of the screen, and Miss Deborah will answer them, and I'll try to help as best as I can as well. So the first question, Miss Deborah, is could you clarify all I need to do to be eligible for financial aid and scholarships at UNCG is apply for admission and fill out the essay?
That is correct for the merit scholarships, and that's the program called the Blue and Gold Scholarship Program. So if you complete your admissions application and the essay by December 1st, you're going to be in the pool to be considered for those scholarships. Also, make sure you complete your FAFSA. The FAFSA is open October 1st. It's open now for next academic year for the 2021-2022 year. So and do the FAFSA and the application because again, you want to make sure you're covering all the bases. But yes, that will cover you for the majority of the opportunities that are out there. Then the outside or private scholarships, as I mentioned before, are through the maybe web searches or through your high school sources.
And to clarify from the admission side of it, a completed application does include your transcripts. It includes your application fee or waiver, as well as that completed application through the online portal, as well as your application fee or waiver. So all of those need to be completed with the essay. So the next question to follow up on the Blue and Gold scholarships, are those the only merit-based aid that are available? Are those the only merit-based aid available?
There may be programs, for example, those are the ones that are based specifically on academic merit. If you are a theater or music major, there may be scholarships, and there are scholarships offered through those departments. So reach out to them to find out their audition schedules and how you would go about making sure that you're going to be, you can be considered for those scholarships. So scholarships that are based on academic merit are typically going to be covered with the admissions application and essay. And then anything that's based on performance would be handled through that individual department. So reach out to them to make sure that you don't miss the opportunity.
Awesome.
And then just general scholarships that the institutional scholarships that we offer, those are going to be covered by the FAFSA, and that would be handled by the financial aid office. So if you complete your FAFSA and you're a priority filer, then you definitely will increase your chances of being considered and receiving one of the scholarships through the institutional portal.
And to reiterate, that priority filing is January 15th.
Yes.
And so to follow up a little bit more on scholarships, so I'm just going to knock out all the scholarship questions and then we'll move into the ones on the loans. Does UNCG have a website where we can see all the scholarships available?
Not anymore. We used to, but we've gone to a different scholarship system. And so we no longer list those out individually. We did at one point, but there were changes. And so that was just a little bit cumbersome to maintain. So we've gone into a different way of managing those. So those are listed in a portal. Now the scholarships for the merit for the Blue and Gold, now you will find those on the admissions office website. So one of the things that we want you to remember is that as an incoming freshman, you are going to be using the admissions application for consideration for merit-based scholarships. Once you have matriculated and you've gone into maybe, I think it's when you get into your sophomore year, then you're going to use a different portal to apply for the institutional scholarships and some of the departmental scholarships. So right now, for our incoming students, we want you to focus on making sure you have a completed admissions application and essay and have it in by the deadline of December 1st and completed your FAFSA. Now you can have the FAFSA completed, you can wait and you have until January 15th to be a priority filer on the FAFSA.
So again, with the scholarships, we're going to just, like I said, continue with all of those questions. If I win a scholarship, do you reduce my financial aid package? If so, does the scholarship replace loans or grants?
Ooh, somebody's been reading our website. That is a great question. Your scholarship is all of that is part of your financial aid package. So typically, if you are awarded a Blue and Gold scholarship, you're going to get that notification first. And then we're going to add that or include that in your overall financial aid award when we start our process in early March or late February, early March is when we'll start that. process. So you will, if you're getting a Blue and Gold scholarship, you're going to get notified. We'll have that on our list. We'll put that into your package, and then we will package around that. If you get a scholarship from another source after your financial aid award has been processed, it could happen that your loans would be reduced. It just depends on how much total aid you have. Remember, I talked about that cost of attendance. I didn't want to get too much into the weeds on that, but the cost of attendance is also a number that tells us the maximum amount of financial aid that you can get from all sources. So if you have more than the cost of attendance, then yeah, we'll have to make some adjustments in there. And we try to do the adjustments so that it's more beneficial to you. And that means reducing loans, because we don't want you to have money to pay back. We want you to have all of the free money that you bring in or that you are awarded and that you earn. And then the loans are supplemental on the back end if you need them. So hopefully you have enough scholarships that you don't need the loans.
Yes, that is the goal. But
Yes.
for those students that do have to take out loans, can you talk a little bit about the difference between a subsidized and unsubsidized loan?
Right. So there is a difference, and it's good to have the knowledge and to have this in your mind. So the subsidized loan is a loan that does not have interest on the loan while you're enrolled in school. So you can look at it this way: the government is subsidizing the interest payments on that. So instead of you paying the interest, the government's paying the interest, or just not charging you interest. So that's what that means. Now that is based on financial needs, so you do need to qualify for that loan, which is why you have to complete the FAFSA in order for the determination to be made whether or not you're eligible for the need-based loan. The unsubsidized loan is not based on financial needs, so pretty much anyone could get an unsubsidized loan. However, if you're eligible for the subsidized, we want you to take that first because, again, as I said, that has no interest. But the unsubsidized loan does have interest accruing on it from the time that it's posted to your student bill. So you can see how that could be, that could grow over the time that you're enrolled if you're not paying the interest. Now you do have that option. You can pay the interest as it accrues, or you can let it accrue and be added to the principal of the loan. And then when you start going in, when you go into repayment and start repaying the loan, then that principal plus the accrued interest then becomes the total principal, and then it starts accruing interest. So it's always, if you have to take out a loan, if you're offered the subsidized and the unsubsidized, take what you need of the subsidized. If you don't need all of it, don't take all of it. If you do need all of it and you still need some, then just take what you need, again, of the unsubsidized to help finish out the cost and to make sure you have things covered. I hope that didn't get too convoluted, but just remember, subsidized, good loans, unsubsidized, not so good. Okay.
And speaking of those loans, do students graduate with a lot of debt?
Well, it depends. If you have been fortunate and diligent in getting grants and scholarships throughout your college career and not had to borrow a lot, then some students leave with very low loan debt. I guess the average loan debt for most students is right around between $20,000–$25,000 over a 4 to 5 year period. And again, that's an average. That's by no means what everybody leaves with. There's some students who leave with no loans, and that comes with good budgeting. So that's why it's a real good idea to look at what your costs are, compare that with what your resources are, and then make a decision on whether or not you even need to borrow. Sometimes you don't need to borrow. If your scholarships and grants don't cover your full bill that's due to the university, depending on how much the difference is, you may be able to set up a payment plan. UNCG has a tuition payment plan that allows you to break your balance that's due into 5 or 4 payments, depending on when you sign up. So that's a great way to avoid taking out loans, especially if you had an opportunity to save some money, or if let's say you're working, you say, well, I'm going to work and I'm going to pay this off. Well, if your balance due each semester is maybe like $500, if you can break that up into 5 payments, that's $100 a month, and you don't have to take out a loan. One of the things that we find that happens is most of the time, People take out more than they need in loans. They may need only $500 to pay the bill, to cover the bill, but because that amount's out there, they're like, well, I'll just take that and just to be sure. Our advice in the financial aid office is take what you need to cover the bill. If later something happens and you find that you need to borrow more, then come back and get more. When you turn it down or reduce it, that doesn't mean that you can't get any more that academic year. It just means that you're exercising some thought, you're exercising some caution, and that's what we want you to do. So at any point, if you say, I don't want the loans, but then 2 months later, you realize, oh, maybe I do need that. I'm going to buy some extra books, or I'm going to add a meal plan, or I'm going to add maybe insurance or whatever. So whatever that might be, you still would have an opportunity to come back and request an additional amount on the loans, or request the loans for the academic year. So don't panic about that.
So talking about not taking the full student loan, can you talk a little bit more about like the indirect and direct expenses and how those are calculated for the award packages, and if the student should take out the additional loan to cover those indirect expenses?
Yes, when we were talking about the cost and the cost of attendance, and I did mention that there were two types of costs involved, direct and indirect. Now, the direct costs are what we would say, what's on the bill? What is the bottom line? What do I have to write the check for? What do I have to pay to the university? And again, what that is comprised of tuition and fees. Now, that's for the classes, for the courses that you're taking. So when you register for classes, you're going to be charged tuition, and then there are some mandatory fees that go along with that, technology fees and administrative fees and those kinds of things to help with the that go along with the instruction. So those two components, you definitely have to pay those. So those are direct costs. So you will see that on your bill. And that depends on how many classes you take. If you're taking a full complement of classes, of course, it's going to be higher. If you're only taking part-time classes, then that will be lower. If you plan to live on campus in a dorm, you will have to apply for a dorm, and you will be charged a fee for your dorm. And students who live on campus and live in a dorm have to have a meal plan. So you'll have a dorm and a meal plan, which is called room and board. So you'll have those charges on your bill. Again, those are considered direct costs and have to be paid directly to the university. So typically, students who decide to live off campus don't have that room and board. They don't have the dorm and meal plan charges, but you still have to calculate how much will it cost you to live off campus if you're renting an apartment. So we don't want you to just look at, oh, I'm just going to get enough to pay for tuition and fees. We want you to also be mindful of how are you covering your living expenses. If you're living on campus, that's going to be billed to you. So you know you're going to have that bill in hand to pay that. And then you can look at how much you have in scholarships and grants and your total financial aid, and look at that first. And then if that doesn't cover the amount that you have to pay to the university, that's when you want to start looking at how much more do I need to pay, and how much do I need to take out in loans, or do I need to take out loans? Again, the indirect costs consist of books and supplies. Books are not charged directly to the student's bill at UNCG. So you will have to either figure out how you're going to purchase them. You can purchase from any bookseller. We also have a wonderful bookstore on campus, and they have our campus enterprise has a system called Bookstore Bucks. Now, this is one of the ways that you can have some book assistance added to your bill. Bookstore Bucks is pretty much, I like to look at it as a line of credit that gets added to your bill, and then you can go into the bookstore and order books, and until you can get an amount up to $750 if you need it. If you don't use the whole $750, you can roll over to the next semester, or you can get a refund for whatever you don't use. But books and supplies, again, typically are out-of-pocket expenses. They're not charged to you. The same thing with transportation. So when we think of transportation in the cost of attendance, we're really thinking about what does it cost you to make trips back and forth home during the semester, during breaks. If you live off campus, there are commuting expenses that you have to factor in. What does it cost you to get back and forth to campus from your apartment? So you want to make sure you're calculating that. Again, you're not going to get a direct bill from the university for that, but those are expenses that you want to make sure you're covering, because we want you to have gas in your car so you can get to class, and we want you to make sure you can get back and forth home if you need to. And then there's personal and miscellaneous expenses. So if let's say you're moving into the dorm and you get in, you're looking like, it's kind of bare in here. I need some stuff to go in here. Might need a comforter, you might need a lamp, you might need some curtains. So this is what you can use that for under the personal and miscellaneous. Again, you're not going to get a bill for any decorations you put up in the dorm, unless you tear up the walls and you'll get a bill. But you also want to make sure you got coverage for your cell phone bill, for your insurance, for things like soap, toothpaste, linens, those kinds of things that, again, you are expenses that come about as a result of you going off to college, but you're not necessarily getting a bill from the university for those things. So just think of those in those two categories. What can you take care of without borrowing under those indirect costs? If you have gotten lots of gifts for graduation and you put that aside to cover your books, then you may not need to borrow money to purchase books. If you are not bringing a car on campus, then you won't have an expense for a car. So again, don't feel like you have to take out all of the loans that's offered to cover everything in the cost of attendance. Look at what you're already covering. So if you're already covering some of those things with your own resources, you may not need to borrow money for those things.
And to help alleviate having to borrow money, you did mention tuition payment plans. So with those tuition payment plans, are there any fees associated with taking advantage of that program?
There is one fee, and that's called the setup fee per semester or whenever you take out the plan. There's no interest, because this is not a loan. You're not borrowing money. You're saying you owe X amount of dollars, and we'll use that $500. After all of your tuition and fees have been covered by financial aid, you still have a balance due to the university of $500. And let's say you don't want to borrow money, but you have $500 in a savings account, or you have money, or you're working and you can pay $100 a month. Then you can set up a payment plan. You'll pay, I think it's $35 to set it up, and that's it for the plan. And we like this plan because it is real time. So let's say you set up a plan for $500, you're making your payments, you've made 2 payments, and now you only owe $300 left. And you get a scholarship for $500 that gets added to your financial aid and gets paid to your account. Well, guess what? Your payment plan's paid off. It makes the adjustment, so you don't have to make any more payments, and you get back a refund if you've overpaid. So this is one of the things that we like about that payment plan, because it is real time. It allows you to plan out how you're going to spend, how you're going to take care of your balances that are due, and it helps you avoid borrowing money if you don't have to. We're never, even though we work in financial aid and we manage loans, we work with loans all the time, that's not something that we advocate. We always advocate taking the option of not borrowing, or if you absolutely have to, borrow only what you need to cover the expenses that you can't cover yourself. But if all else fails, or if you have the option to use the payment plan, we highly encourage you to do that. That is a great way to stretch your money and to avoid debt. And it doesn't cost anything. It costs only the $35 setup fee. So it's not interest. There's no interest accruing on it because it's not a loan.
Definitely want to avoid that debt at best as possible.
Yes.
So for a student who applied for fall 2020 and decided to defer until this upcoming spring 2021, they are wondering, when will their financial aid package be updated, and is there anything they need to do to carry that over from fall 2020 to spring 2021?
That's a really good question. Typically, you wouldn't have to do anything. However, we always, err on the side of caution. Because we're right now starting that process of creating awards for the spring semester, and we're going through to see who's going to be coming in the spring. I would suggest that, just send us an email and say, hey, I'm coming in the spring. I wanted to make sure that, do you need any additional information for me? Do you need me to, do you need anything? I definitely want to make sure my financial aid is set. So if you haven't started to get any email messages or any notifications that your award is ready for spring, then it may be a good idea just to send an email just to let us take a look to see what's going on. Sometimes things get hung up in the system, especially if we've had an award out that was for the academic year, for the full year, and we may have pulled it back. And sometimes it doesn't show up as we want it to. So, it makes, sometimes we have to tweak it a little bit. But typically you don't have to do anything, especially if you notified us and we went ahead and set it up for spring at the outset. But it's not a bad idea just to follow through with an email or quick phone call and just let us do that. If you are in the situation and you want to check on, one of the things that we do encourage you to do, if you're sending an email, please make sure you put in your 9-digit UNCG ID that starts with 8. Do not put in your PIN, just your ID. We don't need your PIN. We just need your ID. Now, if you're calling, we do want you to put in your PIN and ID during the phone prompts. That way we can make sure we can give you those specific details when you call, or if you have someone call for you, make sure they have that information entered. But if you send us an email, just send us your ID so we can make sure we get to you. Because you may send us your full name, but we have a lot of people with similar names and the same name. So it's really helpful if we have your ID in there.
So tonight we do have an out-of-state student joining us, and they are wondering if financial aid is only available for in-state students.
No, that's not at all the case. Now, one of the things that we do have to remember is that a majority of our aid is for in-state students, but that doesn't mean that's by no means all of it. There are a lot of blue and gold scholarships that are available for out-of-state students. And there's some general funding and institutional funds that are also for out-of-state students. So I encourage you to get your application done early. Make sure you get your admissions application in by December 1st, and make sure you go ahead and get your FAFSA completed between now and January 15th, so that you're in that front line to make sure that you're eligible and to make sure that you get those funds that you're eligible to get before they run out. But no, we do have aid, we do award out-of-state students, just probably because we are a state-supported school. A lot of the scholarships and a lot of the endowments are considered set aside for in-state students, and that's based on the donor's request and the donor's requirements. But we do have several programs that are open to students from other states. So get that application in early. That is the key.
In addition to our out-of-state students, we also have a few athletes joining us, and they want to know, how would you attain an athletic scholarship?
Well, first of all, you probably want to talk with the athletic department or with the coach within the sport that you are considering. The Financial Aid Office does not make those awards. Those are made by the coaches. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about some of the merit scholarships may be based on performance. And athletic scholarships certainly fall within that category. So you want to reach out to that, I would say reach out to that specific coach and make sure that you are going to be considered for that. Make sure you follow the guidelines and whatever requirements that they need in order to have you considered for that. So make sure that you have everything else done. And even if you're getting an athletic scholarship, we do want to encourage you to complete the FAFSA still, because there may be other aid that you're eligible to receive in addition to the athletic award. But yeah, that's considered a performance rather than an academic scholarship. So that's not covered under the merit or the blue and gold. That is covered under the specific athletic department. So make sure you reach out to them. And typically they're looking at you. They're gonna reach out and they're gonna let you know what's going on. But it doesn't hurt to just reach out and let them know that you're interested.
And of course, we have parents and family joining us this evening as well. So what happens if a parent's financial circumstance changes during the time their child is in school?
Yeah, and this was one of the topics that we covered last week on our Facebook Live event. So I encourage you to go to our Facebook page, look at that video from October 15th, because we covered a little bit of some information about that. But typically what happens is, what we want you to do is to make sure, first of all, you file your FAFSA accurately based on the information that's being requested. And then let us know what's different from what's on the FAFSA. And especially if something happens after the FAFSA has been completed. And we know that things do happen. There could be a loss of a job. There could be, and you know, there are some really tragic things that have happened, a loss of a parent, divorce and separation. So those kinds of things are things that you want to send directly to the financial aid office. Don't try to change your FAFSA. The FAFSA needs to be accurate based on the information that is requested at the time that you submitted it. And then what you'll want to do is reach out to us either by email or give us a call, and then we'll walk you through the process of getting that looked at. That's called a professional judgment. And what happens is we, you know, depending on the situation, we may ask you to provide some documentation to support, and so that we have something to base a decision on. And then we'll review that to see if there's anything that can be done to make any type of adjustments to either the FAFSA data, or to see whether or not that changes your eligibility for anything. So please make sure you reach out to the financial aid office so that we can make sure that we're looking at your situation as it represents you at that point in time. Again, please do not go back and change your FAFSA. Provide the information that's requested, and then reach out to the financial aid office with your specific situation, and we'll work with you to make sure that your situation gets reviewed. Now, again, I have to put a qualifier in here, because every situation, while we look at everything you tell us, everything you bring to us, but everything may not result in a change that gets more aid. And I have to say that because I don't want to mislead anyone thinking, oh, I just have to turn in this form and I'm going to get, you know, gobs more money. The process is very precise in that, you know, there are specific situations that we can consider, and you know, we're entrusted with this, and to make sure that we are giving full review to the information that you provide to us. So yeah, reach out to us and let us know what's going on. You can call us and we can help you figure out what you need to do and what options you have. What else you got, Caleb?
We got several. So to follow up on the financial aid award letter that we mentioned earlier, I know you said March is typically when you start working on reviewing the FAFSA and different things like that. So when can a student anticipate that they'll receive their financial aid award letter?
That, again, that's one of those, and as you start to interact with the financial aid offices, you'll understand the meaning behind this. The typical financial aid answer is, it depends, because there are a lot of factors that come into play. We will start pulling records for the next academic year. We'll start pulling in the FAFSA records next month, but we won't start processing any awards until early spring. Usually late February, early March. The reason that we have to wait is because there are lots of funding issues that have to be resolved. At this point, we typically don't know how much money are in a lot of the funds, and we have to make sure that we have funding set aside and that we know what the funding levels are. At the same time, we also have to wait for the state to let us know the funding limits and the funding options that are available for their state programs. And that typically happens February or March. So we just have to make sure that all of these things line up, because we don't want to just throw you an award letter that says, hey, you're getting a Pell Grant and a student loan, and that's it. And then we have to come back later. So we want to make sure that when we send you an award letter, that we have given the full review, that you get an award letter that represents everything that you're eligible for, and that we haven't left anything off for you. So that's why we ask your patience in waiting until March. And that way we can make sure that we've gotten the full amount of aid available to offer you. Now, there will be students who are going to be receiving the blue and gold letters or the blue and gold notifications, those awards. And again, I don't know the timetable on those, so I don't want to speak out of term. I don't want anybody from admissions coming over and smacking my hand. So you can talk with them to find out when you might be receiving notification from the blue and gold. But typically, those go out a little bit earlier than the full financial aid award notice.
And now, speaking of those award notices, does a student have to accept their offer of admissions in order to receive that award package or offer letter?
No, not at all. And let me make a couple of distinctions. I'm glad you brought that up. It reminded me of something that I left off in the FAFSA application process. You don't have to be admitted to complete the FAFSA and list our school on your FAFSA. However, you do have to be admitted before we can process a financial aid award offer for you. So what we encourage you to do is go ahead and do the FAFSA, do everything you need to do. If you're not admitted yet, we can still work through the process of making sure we have all the information we need to offer an award once you get admitted. Then once you're admitted, we do process the award and we send you out an award notice and say, here's your financial aid offer. You don't have to have committed to come to UNCG in order for us to offer you financial aid. We hope that you've already made up your mind and you're not considering anybody else because, I mean, quite frankly, why would you? Okay, sorry, I'm an alum, so I'm a little biased. But in any case, you don't have to be confirmed. You don't have to confirm your admission until you feel like it, or until I think Caleb, is it May 1st is National or Universal College Confirmation Day or something like that.
Yeah, so that's
College Decision Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we won't wait until May to tell you how much financial aid you can get. We will tell you as soon as we're ready to roll out those awards and as soon as we have the information necessary to make the awards offers. We hope that as you're reviewing those and as you're comparing schools, that that is a fact. I mean, we know that that's a factor in that, but we don't want you to feel like you have to commit in order to get an award. That's not how that works. That is a separate process. But yeah, so don't feel like I can't apply until I've gotten admitted and until I've committed. So no, go ahead and get that FAFSA done. Get your information in. Let us work on that, and then you have information in early spring to make your decision on.
Awesome. So we do have a student that is very curious about the work-study opportunities. They want to know, how can they find out if they are eligible for work-study, and if they are eligible, how would they find on-campus job opportunities?
Work-study is a federal program, so the FAFSA application is the initial entry point. So you would complete the FAFSA. Once we get your information, we will let you know on your award letter whether or not you've been offered work study. Now, again, here's my qualifiers. Work study is one of our limited funded programs. So we have so many more students who are eligible for work study than we actually have money to award all of these students. One of the things that we do know is that some students decide not to take work study even after we've offered it, and they may opt to decline it. In that case, we're able to pull those funds back and offer it to other students. So here's my tidbit. If you are interested in work study, but it's not listed on your financial aid award letter, then let us know. We will put you on a wait list. We'll check to make sure that you're eligible, and that is based on financial need. It probably won't show up on your FAFSA application whether or not you're eligible for work study, again, because every school has a different allocation of funding and a different awarding strategy. So you'll see that on your award letter. But if you don't see it, don't panic. If you do see it, then the step one is to accept it. And then you're going to get information and instructions on navigating over to our Handshake, which is our Career Professional Development Office database of work opportunities. These are housed, this database houses opportunities for both on-campus jobs and off-campus. And in this case, it's going to work just like you would be looking for a regular part-time job, because that's what it is. It's a part-time job. And you'll go through the list. You'll look at something that strikes your fancy. You say, oh, there's an opportunity in the admissions office, or there's an opportunity in the library, or there's an opportunity in the School of Music, or in the School of Business, or wherever on campus. It'll be listed, and there'll be a short job description on what types of work and what types of skills they're looking for. And if you feel like, well, I think I could fill this, then you would submit your application, or you submit whatever application is requested by that department. And it may be a resume. They may have a formal application that you complete. And then you'll go through either an interview process or an application review process. And they will let you know, hey, we want you to come work with us. And then you'll get hired. If you do not get work study, and if you're not able to get on the wait list, or you get on the wait list and you still don't get it, or if you're deemed ineligible for work study, there's also an opportunity to work on campus in non-work study positions, and Handshake has opportunities listed there as well, so you can search there.
So, last question pertaining to the award package. This one is coming from a parent. They're curious as to if it changes from year to year.
It depends. Remember I said that was our standard answer. It certainly can. And we don't want anybody to ever think that, it's going to be the same from year to year. And one of the reasons why it changes is because your situation changes, your finances changes, funding sources may change, the amount of funds available may change. So there are a number of different things that can happen from one year to the next that can impact the amount and the type of awards that students receive. So I would say it's likely. There may be some things that would remain the same, depending on, if your income level stays fairly level, fairly same throughout, then the possibility of your eligibility for student for the Pell Grant or other need-based grants might stay the same. Again, this really hinges so much on so many factors that are beyond our control. As far as what types of resources would be available, and we just have to really see what happens when we get the application in, and also timing. Whenever we get applications in that are late after the priority filing period, they are, even if they're eligible, they may not be able to get the funds because they're no longer available. So the student's eligibility may have been the same as it was last year, but simply because they were filing at a different time frame, the funds were exhausted by the time the application was processed. So there are a number of different factors. I would never hinge everything on it being the same from year to year, because there are too many things that could change. There's some things that could stay the same as, but I would say expect changes.
Yes, so our hour has quickly passed by, but we do have one final question from our audience, and it's pertaining to those circumstance changes. So if they've already submitted their FAFSA, and it's no longer an accurate reflection of their current situation, when is the best time to submit the supporting documentation for review?
Right, depending on the situation, you could submit documentation as early as January or December or January. I would say call us or email us and let us look at what the situation is, and then we can let you know when the best time to turn that in would be, because it differs depending on the situation. Yeah, especially if it's a loss of income, we would need some more information later into the year. So yeah, just give us a call and we'll work with you on that.
Yeah, so one thing for sure about our financial aid office is that they are very friendly. Miss Deborah was actually one of the people that helped me to pay for college. And so as we're wrapping up, one final question, always my favorite question to ask you is, could you leave us with one piece of advice for prospective students and families that are attempting the financial aid and scholarship process for the very first time?
Well, if you haven't heard it, the theme that's been running through everything that I've said, it's file early, file early, file early. So make sure you do everything early. Don't wait until the last minute, and don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what we're here for. That this is part of our job, to make sure you have the information that you need to go forward. So file early, ask questions. Those are my two key pieces of advice. And don't be intimidated. Okay, that's number 3. Don't be scared. We're here to help you.
Awesome. So thank you again, Ms. Deborah, one of my favorite people over in financial aid. Don't tell them that, though, for joining us this evening and talking all about the financial aid process and the different scholarships that we offer here. As we're wrapping up, I do want to thank all of our prospective students and future Spartans. As Ms. Deborah Slade said, this is the place for you. We don't want to see you go anywhere else. We hope that you learned a lot about the financial aid opportunities here at UNC Greensboro, and we want to encourage you to tune in again tomorrow for our next installment of our fall virtual open house, which will be at 4 p.m., which will feature our School of Nursing, and then 6 p.m., which will feature my school, the School of Health and Human Sciences, and all of the other virtual open house things taking place. So have a great night, everyone, and go Spartans.